When the last tree fell, no one heard it. There was no thunder, no warning siren, just a dull, final crack, and then, an unnerving silence. At first, life seemed to go on as usual. It was easy to ignore. People said, "They're only trees. We need the land. We need the money." So, the hills were shaved bare, one by one. The old forest roads, once shaded and cool, turned to pale ribbons of dust under a relentless sun. The world was changing, but we told ourselves it was for the better. We called it progress. But then, the birds left. The mornings became strangely, deeply quiet. No more songs to greet the dawn. No rustle of wings in the branches that were no longer there. The vibrant chorus of life had been replaced by a flat, empty hum. It was the children who noticed first. They'd look up at the wide, vacant sky and ask, "Where did the birds go? Why does the sky feel so empty?" We didn't have a good answer for them. We just told them the birds had gone somewhere else for a while. After the birds, the rivers were next. The forest roots had been like a net, holding the rich soil in place, patiently drinking the rain and releasing it slowly. Without that net, the rain came down angry and unchecked. Brown, muddy water rushed down the bare slopes, a torrent of destruction that carried away farms, roads, and a lifetime of memories. Entire homes disappeared overnight, and when the dry season came, those same roaring rivers vanished completely. All that was left was a scarred riverbed of cracked stones and a desperate, lingering thirst. The wells ran dry. The water we had always taken for granted was gone. Then, the soil itself grew tired. The land that had fed villages for generations, that had given us corn, beans, and life, became thin and bitter. The rich, dark earth turned to pale, useless sand. Crops failed spectacularly. Seeds we planted with hope refused to rise from the ground. Farmers, whose hands knew every inch of their land, began to look at their fields like strangers. The earth had become hostile, an enemy they couldn't understand or appease. The connection between people and the land, a bond forged over centuries, was breaking. The animals, of course, had nowhere left to hide, nowhere to find food. Some, confused and starving, wandered into the villages, their wild eyes filled with a fear we could now recognize as our own. We saw deer nibbling at garbage and bears scavenging near homes. But most of them just disappeared forever. The stories our grandparents used to tell, the ones that began within the forest, there lived a wise old owl, or deep in the woods, the clever fox, they had no endings anymore. The characters had vanished from the world, leaving our fables as empty as the landscape. How do you tell a child about a world they can no longer see? And then, the air itself changed. The days grew hotter, the sun more punishing. The shade we had never even thought to appreciate was gone. The nights, which once brought cool relief, now offered no rest. People slept fitfully, drenched in sweat and a thick blanket of worry, waking up more tired than when they went to bed. They'd ask each other, "Why is the weather so angry? Why doesn't it listen to the seasons anymore?" It felt like the world's natural rhythm had been broken, its heartbeat growing faint and erratic. That's when the forest's greatest secret was finally, painfully revealed. It was never just about the trees. It was never just wood and leaves. The forest was the source of our water. It was the quality of our breath. It was our shelter from the storm and the sun. It was the balance that kept everything in check. It was a silent, powerful protection we never even noticed until it was completely gone. The elders in the village, the ones who had warned us, they just shook their heads and said, the forest was holding the world together. But we hadn't listened, and now, the world had already started to fall apart. In the heavy silence that followed all this loss, a new sound began to emerge. It was the sound of coughing from the dust-filled air. It was the sound of stomachs rumbling with a hunger that had no end in sight. It was the sound of quiet weeping for a world that was slipping away. And in that silence, humanity finally began to understand the devastating truth. When the forests disappear, life doesn't end suddenly with a bang. It doesn't stop all at once. It just fades. It fades slowly, painfully, piece by piece, until even hope itself begins to dry up like a river without shade. This story isn't just a story, it's a warning. It's happening right now in different parts of our world, but it's not too late to change the ending. We can be the ones who decide to plant a tree instead of cutting one down. We can be the generation that learns to listen to the silence and brings back the song of the birds. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, please subscribe, like, and share it. Let's spread awareness and become the guardians our planet so desperately needs.